All right, let's bring in Aaron Wudrick, Federal Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. He joins us now from Ottawa. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start with the Phoenix pay problems because that's the biggest boondoggle, I think, of the batch. It's going to cost, they estimate, or some are estimating, over $1 billion now to fix. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think we may have to call the gun registry to move over. It's been a long time federally since we've seen a boondoggle of this size. Both this government and previous government have a hand in this, and it's very unfortunate that a project that was supposed to save taxpayers money could end up now costing them north of $1 billion.
North of $1 billion, and imagine the frustration of the employees who have been affected of this. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of them actually, are still scratching their heads trying to get this worked out.
Yeah, it's very hard for a lot of Canadians to even understand the scope of it. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of federal employees here. In some cases, people have been paid very little, some not at all. And in other cases, there have been people who've been grossly overpaid and have to pay it back. So it's a mess from top to bottom. And I think we can only hope that the government gets their head around this sooner rather than later.
All right, let's get to the Canada Revenue Agency. That's another one that stuck out. Basically, what we're hearing from the AG is that they're not answering the calls the way they should, meaning they're just not getting too many of the calls. And they're also giving bad information, wrong information to Canadians who are calling. Were you surprised by that?
Yeah, look, this is a very troubling story from top to bottom. It's embarrassing for the department, and it's got to be very frustrating for Canadians who rely on the CRA to give them good information. If you're calling Revenue Canada and you can't get through half the time because they're blocking your call, and then when you do get through, you get a wrong answer 1/3 of the time. Those are not good numbers, and I think they need to take a long, hard look at what they're doing. Canadians are very frustrated as it is trying to pay their taxes. We have a very complicated tax code. So at the very least, when they get through to CRA, they should be given the correct information.
Do you feel maybe like there's a fairness issue here as well? As you mentioned, most people are trying to do what's right. Sometimes they need that extra information to do what they need to do, and they're not getting it, calling back 3 or 4 times in an effort to get it.
Well, absolutely. Look, people are trying to pay their taxes. They're doing their civic duty, and they can't even get the information they need to do it. I think Canadians all recognize our tax code is extremely complicated. Very few of us try to do our taxes without a professional. So at the very least, they should be able to get a straight answer in a reasonable amount of time when they call the CRA.
How does your organization, Aaron, try to move this forward, or how does your organization respond to a report like this one?
Well, the first thing we've long called for is simplifying the tax code. That is actually the long-term solution here. If you have a simpler tax code, it's easier to file your taxes. You have fewer queries in the first place, and there's less complicated answers that CRA has to give. In the short term, it is about resources. The CRA has actually boosted their resources over the last couple of years. So I think perhaps internally at CRA, they need to take a long look at their metrics and how they're allocating their resources so that Canadians are getting service that they deserve.
They're obviously going to attempt to try and deal with this. We heard from the minister today talking about how they're putting some money into dealing with their technology. Hopefully that means their phone service. But again, it's spending money to fix the problem.
Yeah, look, some of these things take money to fix, but more troubling than the bad answers is the fact that CRA was doing things like blocking calls so that people would be waiting on the line just so they could claim that their average waiting time was low, or the fact their own quality control system did not actually flag a lot of the problems. So I think there's quite a few issues here that CRA needs to look into.
All right, Aaron Wudrick, I got to leave it there. Thanks so much for weighing in on this today.
Thanks for having me.